Alright, hello and welcome to me doing my Abe Sapien makeup. This was done for a makeup class, but also just because Abe Sapien is such a fun character and I wanted to have fun with it. Here's me putting on the bald cap. This is the only prosthetic in this makeup that I didn't make. I already had the bald cap, and it's not a very good bald cap. The edges are very thick and harsh, so I had to rip up toilet paper so that it was just single ply, and then sponge latex over that, and just add layers and layers until it was well blended. And I'm only blending the sides because the top is going to be covered later with the prosthetic that I'm using. And I'm just using a textured sponge to add texture all around. Here I'm putting on the prosthetic and just drawing out where I need to apply the pros-aide. Which I'm doing with the Q-tip, and then letting dry on both the prosthetic and my face before I stick it on my face. Doing the edges, fixing up the edges, making sure everything is going to stick as well as it can, because the prosthetic is made out of gel foam latex and it's pretty heavy. And then the edge, pretty harsh on the prosthetic as well, so I'm doing the same thing I did with the bald cap and taking toilet paper and layering that with latex and sponging it on and trying to add texture to hide any seams or edges that you can see. I'm just continually doing that until I can't tell where the edge is anymore. And I'm adding some texture to the mask as well, so that way it blends in just a little bit more. It doesn't really show up. It's still very silky. And then for the sides, since they had a bit more, it didn't matter. It didn't need to be like seamless in terms of like the levels. It was okay for there to be a dip because he does have an arch in that part of his face. I'm just using unraveled cotton balls and layering that with latex and just using my fingers to apply that. I was using a sponge, and then I realized that it's just me and I'm not being paid to do this. I'm not doing this on someone else. It's just me, and I can use fingers on my face because it's my fingers and my face, but I wouldn't do that in a professional setting. But I'm doing it here because it's just me. And in total, this makeup took me about 4 hours to do. I took some breaks. I to just go like lay down or to like drink a smoothie. Oh, and now I'm working on his little jaw areas, which are green and have a very specific texture. So for that, I just layered some latex on my face and then waited for it to dry and then peeled it back just a little bit so it had kind of a scabby texture and it gave it more dimension. And then layered more latex on that just to give it even more dimension, since I don't have a prosthetic for this part of his face. And in the actual movie, it's all kind of one big whole head prosthetic. Then I'm attaching the gills just by putting pros-aide on them and pros-aide on my face and matching it up and sticking them on. I'm applying them also sticking out facing up towards my face so that they have that, like, because if I put them on facing towards my neck, it would just lay flat against my neck, and that's not what I wanted. I wanted the dimension. And then I put some latex on my chin because, like I said, in the movie, it's a whole head prosthetic and it goes to his chin, but I just put latex on my chin because I didn't make a whole head prosthetic. And then I'm just painting my face with, it's just Mehron Paradise paints in like light blue, and trying to get everywhere. Later, I'm gonna have Indy come in and help me get the back of my head because I can't really get the back of my head by myself. Which I just freehanded, and I start getting really excited here and dancing around a lot because I start to like really feel like it's coming together and I'm starting to look like Abe. But yeah, just painting those on, kind of freehanding them with a small little detail brush, again, and just Mehron paints. And then painting in the green for his little jaw areas, just kind of laying down like base colors and details, adding his little squiggly goatee. And then adding some green as kind of like blush, just to give it a little more dimension. And it's not just, you know, a basic blue tone all around. And then I'm starting to add some shading, and what I'm doing for shading is just dry brushing Mehron paints and just black Mehron paints. And just putting that in any area that dips down, and I'm looking at a reference image. The entire time I was applying this makeup, I was looking at a reference image. Doing that to same thing with the dry brushing to my neck, but now with a bigger brush. Just continuing to add shading anywhere that there's shading. And then in the background, Indy is making me a stencil. I forgot that I needed a stencil, forgot to make it, so I last minute went to go ask Indy if they could make it for me. For his head, he has a very specific texture, which is obviously airbrushed on with multiple stencils. I didn't do that. Here I'm doing his lips, which I did with actual liquid lipstick, and then continued to add shading in the same way. There's the stencil that Indy made. And I'm adding a little bit more dimension and kind of giving myself more of a fish mouth by doing my inner corners of my lips. Here I'm applying the stencil, kind of doing the same technique as I did with the shading, dry brushing on Mehron paints, and then painting it on over the stencil. And then adding more dimension, asking Indy to come help me and do the back of my head with the stencil. And they did a really good job. And then I'm adding a little bit of just like powdered blush to give it just some more dimension and color. And then I start adding highlights using the Alchemist palette. Make me look a little more glowy, give myself more dimension. Then I am done, and here is the pictures of how the final look came out. What I didn't touch on were the eyes, which were made out of safety glasses, and it's the final look. Hope you guys like it.